Hi, I'm Zander and this is Tools for Robotics. So in robotics, there's a lot of tools you might need. Maybe you know what you need to do, but you just don't know what kind of tool to use to make it easier on yourself. Using the right tool will save you a lot of time in the future and make future ideas and repairs that you might have to do much easier. For example, if you use pliers to tighten a bolt, you can strip the bolt and then it will be a big pain to get it out. Maybe another example is instead of attaching two parts together using the proper things for the job, you decide to zip tie or hot glue them, which just makes whatever you made look bad and shows that it's not very professionally done, which is what everyone looks to see in robotics. One tip about taking robotics is research the things that you don't know, and it will help you do things the right way the first time. Here's some examples of some tools you might need in robotics. Screwdrivers. Screwdrivers are used to install and remove screws manually or with a power tool like a drill. There are many different types of screwdrivers to match certain screws. The most common are Phillips, slotted, or flathead, hex, and spline. Here's a list of all different kinds of screwdriver heads. Pliers and cutters. There are many different shapes and sizes of pliers depending on what you want to use them for. Pliers are used for gripping things that you can't normally grab with your hands and to cut things in specific ways. Some common types of pliers are needle nose pliers, wire strippers, wire cutters, and combination pliers. These types of pliers are meant for wiring. You can use wire strippers to cut the rubber around a wire, exposing the inside metal that the electricity goes through. Wire cutters are used to cut certain lengths out of wires. Crimpers. Crimpers are used to connect two pieces of metal together by changing the shape and the way they stick together. These are commonly used to do things like attaching a connector piece to a wire. Here are demonstrations of how to use a crimper. Soldering irons. Another type of tool you might use is a soldering iron. A soldering iron is used to connect two pieces of metal together like a wire to a wire. It is a more solid way to connect wires because you use a wire called solder, which has a low melting point used to hold metal together like glue. Here's an example of how you solder. Wrenches and sockets. You can use wrenches and sockets to twist nuts and bolts together because most of them are hex-shaped like nuts and bolts. You can use wrenches to twist things that might be harder to get to than using a socket. With a socket, you can use a drill to turn nuts and bolts tighter and faster, which is a lot easier than using a wrench. Rivet guns and rivets. If you don't like using screws, nuts, and bolts, use rivets. Rivets are more permanent than screws and nuts and bolts because they are harder to remove. They're also easier to apply. You use a rivet gun to hold the rivet, which then squeezes a ball through a metal tube, changing the shape of the rivet, holding the piece it is going through in place. Here's an example of how a rivet works.